BJP is it's likely to be the single largest party.
No army guy or no defense guy actually wants to be deployed in the internal security of our country.
BJP has a very strong organizational structure, and you see, unlike the Congress, you see the BJP leaders starting from Prime Minister to Amit Shah and other leaders, though they went not only to Imphal, they went to other villages also, no, in the entire hill area. Say,
whoever is in power in the center, to a great extent, influences the ruling party or the party which will come to power in Imphal.
Development must come first, and then the law and order and security situation will improve by itself.
Hello, namaste, and a very good evening. Welcome to Citti Media. I'm your host, Sharan Citti. Manipur elections are around the corner, and the mahal on ground in Imphal is emphatic, to say the least. A lot of political parties are contesting against each other. There are new political forces emerging within the state as well. And it is said that there is going to be a double engine sarkar in Manipur once again in all probabilities, and that is what the surveys show us at the very least, at least. What is going to be the outcome of the election? What are the main agendas? What do the people of Manipur want? Is there enough peace and stability? Are the Mon killings going to be a factor? Should AFSPA be repealed? What is the HSE ADC bill? These are the questions I'm going to be posing to my panelists tonight on the show. Joining me today is General Himalay Singh, Mr. Jaideep Saikia, who's a regular face on the panel, and Professor Amarjeet Singh, who is the head of Center for Northeast Studies of Jamia Millia Islamia. Namaste and a very good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me for discussing the outcomes of the Manipur upcoming elections this time. I would like to begin by asking Professor Amarjeet Singh. So what do you think the likely outcomes of this upcoming elections are going to be, depending on the number of factors that are now being weighed in?
Thank you very much. What I expect from this, the forthcoming election, is that BJP is it's likely to be the single largest party. That is my analysis will say, and then the BJP will be followed by, say, NP, this National People's Party, and the Congress. So that is my belief at this point of time. And as far as I see, is that this election, none of the political party are not very popular among the people, but of course the BJP, the popularity among the political or the politicians. So so that is the situation. But as far as I understand, that BJP is likely to be the single largest party, and most of the other parties like the Nationalist People's Party, then the Naga People's Front. So what I feel is that at least another 2-3 parties, they are most likely to join BJP after the election. That is what we have seen in the past also.
And what do you think are the rallying points for the BJP that will probably enable a victory for them? I ask you this, Amarjeet ji, because if we look at some of the statistics based on which the opposition parties today are rallying against the BJP, they say that Manipur has one of the lowest vaccine rates. The infrastructure growth compared to the other states is not as much in Manipur. Per capita income is still one of the lowest compared to the other northeastern states. So what is enabling this kind of support for the BJP, especially given the fact that there is some amount of anti-incumbency there?
You see, the Manipur is a very different state. When I say different state, see, say especially in the northeast, you have seen, say, states like Sikkim, where there are local parties has been ruling for many years. And you also have, say, in Mizoram, where the local parties and the national party, consecutively rule these states. Whereas Manipur is a very different state. Whichever party at the central level, that party is likely to come back to power in Manipur. That is the trend that, whenever if there is a BJP government in Delhi, then in Imphal also there will be a BJP government. That is the, this is the trend that we have seen so far, and why I say this is that now there is also a feeling that if the same party, if the BJP is in Manipur and then if the BJP is in Delhi, there is also a tendency, that, perception among the people, even the common people as well as the political leadership is that, it is, if the same party is ruling Manipur and then in Delhi, then that there is a tendency that it is easier to get funds from Delhi. So that perception, that mindset, it's very much in Manipur. You may not find this kind of tendency in Mizoram or in Sikkim. So this is my belief. So that is the reason why said, the BJP may not get the, say absolute majority, but BJP, what I feel is that it will be the single largest party, and then the other smaller groups like, say, NPP or NPM, they automatically they will come forward, and so that is what I see.
Points very well noted, sir. In fact, this is one of the rallying points even for the Prime Minister there, because he keeps mentioning double engine ki sarkar.
Yes, double engine. And in Manipur, and this is very, very, it is in the minds of the people. So common people also feels that, if the same party is in Imphal, then there is that, said that dependency syndrome, because we are heavily dependent on the central government. So that is the reality.
There is a dependency syndrome, but General Himalaya Singh, to what degree is peace and stability an issue here? And also in terms of the security situation, how has it evolved over the last 5 years? If you were to put things into perspective, sir.
Firstly, thank you, Saran, for giving me this opportunity. Firstly, I think by and large, in the last 5 years or so, there have been improvements in the security scenario in the state, and for that matter, in the entire Northeast region as well. As far as the dynamics of, insurgency situation in Manipur is there, though the violence level has come down significantly, I am of the opinion that the security situation in the context of insurgency is still a cause for concern for the security, establishment, for the simple reason that we have a very, very long-standing talks, and a suspension of operations going on, and many others not even agreeing to talk to government of Manipur or government of India. Therefore, it still continues to be a cause for concern. How will it impact the election is also a matter of which needs to be deliberated, because many insurgent groups, particularly belonging to Kuki groups, KNO, Kuki National Organization, they have openly canvassed for BJP, particularly in the Kuki dominated areas. Whereas, as you know, the Naga People's Front, which is by and large associated with the NSC and IM, is in the Naga dominated areas. So therefore, the complexities of security, the challenges of security remains a concern for the security establishment.
I'm really glad you brought this up because there is also this factor being discussed that there is a sense of unity among the 34 tribes in Manipur, and that is especially because of the HSC ADC bill. So, would you say that there is a unifying factor which is probably taking a political shape and might impact elections in a certain way?
I partially agree with you. There are issues. As you know, there is a long-standing animosity between, particularly Naga groups and the Kuki groups in the hill areas of Manipur for a very, very long time. And normally, in election, in every election, they go the opposite kind of in the opposite sides of the political spectrum. During this particular election, you have the ADC bill and also hill areas, many other issues which unify most of the tribes in the hill areas, unify. But in this particular election, I'm of the opinion that they are on the different sides of the spectrum for the simple reason I mentioned to you about the KNO having canvassed for the BJP and NPF solidly for the NSC and IM cause.
Right. Thank you so much for that. So I have a couple of follow-ups for you, but I'll come back to you with that. Jaideep ji, good to have you back on the show again. Welcome back. First of all, now we are discussing about the controversial hill areas autonomous districts council bill. Now, why is this so controversial, and what are the main objectives of this bill, sir?
Well, I think that's a very pertinent question. The bill, the controversial Manipur Hill Areas Development Autonomous District 2021 bill, which was not tabled, is expected to be tabled after the elections and the formation of the assembly or the government. But the fact of the matter is there has been widespread protest from the valley, particularly against this bill. But I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we are also, even as Manipur goes to the elections, we are also having very crucial, I think, final phase talks with the NSA and IM. And naturally, the NSA and IM has made it very clear that they continue to sort of ask for a separate or homeland, which comprises the Naga-dominated areas of Manipur, primarily districts like Ukhrul, etc. But I don't think both the center and Imphal would be agreeable to balkanization of the present state of Manipur. So, in my view, I think this particular bill, if it is tabled and if it is passed, would give what I call is autonomy plus, which should actually appease the NSA and IM. But it is very, very debatable to say whether the bill will actually be passed. This will actually depend on the arithmetic, which I think the previous speakers have spoken, whether the NPF gets a good amount of seats, etc., and whether it is able to pressure the largest single party, which obviously would be the BJP, to allow the bill to be passed. I would say that the passage of the bill would actually be a good thing when we talk about the larger picture, which takes into consideration the NSA and peace talks, because in that sense, I think the autonomy plus aspect that I'm talking about would get fulfilled, and the center would be able to tell the NSA and IM that since the balkanization of Manipur or any other Naga-dominated areas is not possible, that they should be very content with this particular bill, which is, I would say, is autonomy plus.
Right. Thank you so much. So it all depends on the political arithmetic is what you're saying, and that's a crucial factor. Professor Amarjit Singh, in that case, who is going to emerge the kingmaker if the BJP is probably not going to get an absolute majority? Who has the best advantage at the moment?
What I believe is that it will be very easy for BJP to form the government. So if BJP gets say even 20 or 25 or say maybe more than 30 also, so if the BJP even gets less than say less than 30, the other political parties, I will not call them as kingmakers, because people, those who are contesting in other parties like say NPP, NPF, Janata Dol United, they were all at one point of time, they were with BJP. Okay.
Right.
Only till say till before the announcement of the BJP list of candidates, they were with the BJP. They were all intending candidates of the BJP. And that this time many people, all these political leaders, they want to contest from BJP.
Yeah.
So therefore, now what you see is that last time we have already seen also. So, and the BJP has has very easily manipulated in the past also. So likewise, what I feel is that the those who are with say NPP, NPF, JDU, so they will come with BJP. They will never go with Congress, because they knew that Congress will not be able to form the government. So therefore, they will definitely come with BJP. So there is no question of kingmakers or like that. I don't want to call it as a, because the situation in Manipur is very different. So they will definitely will come, say many of the candidates who are now contesting from Janata Dol, JDU, they were all from BJP only. Right. In case if 2 or 3, if they won the election, definitely they will come with BJP. That we have seen in the last election also.
But overall, in the Northeast, the BJP has suddenly had a resurgence. It came to power in almost all of the states. In fact, all of the states. So, what enabled this factor? And also, is there a chance for the Congress to ever have a revival in the Northeast?
No, you see, Northeast. I don't want to comment about the Northeast, but at least in the context of Manipur, at this point of time, I think it will be very difficult for Congress. Congress may be the it may end up with about 7 or 10, 11 seats, not more than that. Because you see, BJP is very strong at this point of time. The leaders, BJP has a very strong organizational structure. And you see, unlike the Congress, you see the BJP leaders, starting from Prime Minister to Amit Shah and other leaders, though they went not only to Imphal, they went to other villages also, in the hill area. Say last week, Amit Shah, he went to Chorasanpur, Senapati, and other areas which Congress leader have not done. Say, as for example, Rahul and others, Congress leader came. So they came only, so they were in Imphal only. They didn't go beyond Imphal. But whereas BJP is very different in that sense. And BJP can, as in the past also, and they are able to make friends with, various civil society groups, both in the hills and the plain.
This is an extremely interesting point. So nobody, especially in the mainstream parties, they do not look beyond Imphal, and that's one of the reasons why you don't win a lot of support from the other areas outside of these urban bodies.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for those points. General Himalaya Singh, I would like to redraw your attention to the security situation. Now, obviously, we need to address the factor of AFSPA. AFSPA has again become a very popular demand. Everybody wants to see it gone. And this has suddenly resurged again because of the Mon killings. So right now, what is the situation on the ground? And as somebody, as someone who is a veteran of the Indian Army, what would your prognosis be for the situation?
As you rightly said, Charan, that AFSPA has been, is found to be in the manifesto of many parties, NPP, Congress, and so on. And even the BJP manifesto, even though AFSPA is not mentioned, but the many senior leaders have said that AFSPA's relevance will not be there if BJP comes to power. So
Right.
that is the stand as far as the BJP is concerned. But as a security, see, no army guy or no defense guy actually wants, to be deployed in the internal security of our country. We are for external, security in the sense that it is a secondary role for the army to be deployed in the internal security, which should be handled by normal, central armed police force like CRP, BSF, and state police and all that. So army is in no mood actually to be deployed. But yes, if the government, central government or the state government requisitions army, then AFSPA is a enabling kind of act, which is required. It is up to the center or the state government to whether or not to declare any state or any part of the country as disturbed area. In any case, army, to my mind, will never insist on any part to be declared as a disturbed or anything. But when called upon to do so, it is our duty to make sure that the assigned duty is carried out. For that enabling, that umbrella act will be required wherever. Specifically in the context of Manipur, as it is, AFSPA has been removed from 7 constituencies in the Imphal Valley, and I think it may take a review whether or not AFSPA is required. Will be some exercise need to be taken before this is whether to remove this or not.
Right. In fact, the BJP does not mention this openly in the manifesto, but I've seen Chief Minister Biren Singh going on and talking about removal of AFSPA, and perhaps this is essential for the political survival of many candidates as well, if we have to be brutally honest about this. Thank you so much for those points. Jaideep ji, NSC and IM obviously weighs in on a lot of factors, especially when it comes to the security situation, and it impacts the political outcomes as well. So how do we see NSC and IM emerge as a player, especially during elections, is what I wanted to ask you.
Well, I don't think that it's going to be a very important factor, except the fact that it has ally or a sort of a surrogate in the NPF. But the fact of the matter is, manifesto of the BJP is very silent on even this question of the integration of the hill districts and the entire NSA and IM question. I have gone through the manifesto of the BJP, which is obviously going to be the single largest party and in all probability going to form the government. But the fact of the matter is, in the hill districts, naturally, it is a very important factor, particularly in Ukhrul. As you know, the General Secretary of the NSA&IM hails from Somdal village in Ukhrul, and at least after the revival of the talks with the new interlocutor in place, I think one of the most important aspects that he would like to sort of assure his parish, his constituency, is that there would be some sort of an inclusion or otherwise of the hill districts of Manipur into what he calls the Greater Nagaland. That is precisely why I am actually advocating the fact that there should be something called autonomy plus. If the passage of the bill of the hill areas district bill, which is going to be placed after the new assembly is it comes into being, should be a move by the center and also by Imphal to assuage Mr. Muiva to sort of be content with the passage of the bill and by provision of the autonomy plus bill. So I think that I think we are heading towards possible scenario where we can actually kill two birds with one stone. If the passage of the bill is somewhat assured by the center, naturally, as Professor Amarjit Singh has very correctly said, whoever is in power in the center to a great extent influences the ruling party or the party which will come to power in Imphal. To that extent, I think the passage of this very crucial bill is very important. Despite the fact, I must underscore that there has been protest against the bill becoming an act. But as I said, the killing of two birds with one stone should be actually in the minds of the people of Manipur and the other right-thinking people of the nation, because that would be a step actually by which the NSN and Mr. Muiba's aspiration for autonomy plus could be fulfilled.
We'll have to wait and watch how that unfolds. Professor Amarjit, what are the main issues of the people this time in Manipur, apart from the security situation and the popular demands that we've already heard?
Saran, frankly speaking, this election, in this election, I don't see any, relevant issue in this election. Say, for example,
Not a very spicy election this time, is it?
Say, for example, as the other two respected panelists has also mentioned, say Manipur is a very, very different from many other areas of the country. Say, for example, AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Power Act. So this act and the protest against it was very intense during the Congress period in the past. But when it comes to elections, so this issue, did not reflect in the electoral outcome. Say, for example, there was a lady, Sarmila, Irom Sarmila, and she fasted for about more than 10 years and demanding for the withdrawal of the armed forces, and many people supported her. But when she contested election, she got only about 190 or something votes only, not even 200 votes. So this is the situation. And now in this election, I mean, because you see in Manipur, what is happening is that election is, more, this is more about a, routine democratic, exercise. And for the people, say, for example, in a particular constituency. So, I mean, I don't see any connection with any issue. What matters is, number one, the party and the candidates matters a lot. So this is how, because in this election, development, we all have been talking about development, but this is as usual. Every political party talks about development, so is as usual. AFSPA also, all political parties talks about AFSPA, so doesn't matter. And so, and even for the Naga or in the hill areas also, I mean, I don't see any issue. Yeah, I mean, in this election, not only in this election, even in the earlier election also.
I understand where you're coming from, because a lot of the reports that I've seen from Delhi-based media, they perceive the main agendas of this election to be AFSPA, the security situation, and also, you're misusing UAPA Act for detaining certain journalists. But perhaps on the ground, what the people want is completely different from what the media portrays as the main agendas.
Yeah. So as you said, no, AFSPA is not an issue at all, because otherwise, in the past also, nowadays there is no movement, organized movement for the withdrawal of AFSPA. Nowadays, earlier there was, lots of movement, people participated. There were so many civil society groups, And but these things doesn't have any relation with the electoral outcome. This is what we have seen. Of course, people outside the state, for them, AFSPA. But once you go to it to to Manipur, and once you go to a village or like that, so this is not an issue. I have not. I mean, this is what I say. I have not come across AFSPA being an issue, because everybody talks about AFSPA. So therefore AFSPA is not issue.
Thank you for that. General Himalaya Singh, what is the vision for Manipur as a state, for its progress, for its development, not just in terms of peace and stability, because that is slowly being achieved over the last few years. But, there are, of course, going to be minor hiccups now and then, especially given the nature and the geography of that particular state. But as a person who's served in the Northeast for several years, how would you lay out the vision plan for Manipur going ahead so that there is more progress and there is more development?
It's a very interesting question, but it is also, discussed at many forums, how to, for development of Manipur. In my view, the first and foremost would be that, the Act East policy of India, if it comes out in the manner it is, it is projected to be, then, and Manipur being a hub of most of the activities for Act East policy, of India, then perhaps Manipur will get into a kind of a, momentum for the progress. As of now, because of the security situation, because of the ethnic divide, because of the political pulls and pressures, the development has been at a backseat. Anyone may say anything. Development has been at a backseat as compared to other states, like Mizoram or Sikkim, or So therefore, I am of the opinion the first and foremost is the developmental issues will get a traction once this Act East policy comes into full force, because no amount of central government assistance, no amount of policy will work in Manipur unless the people decide, to harness the gains that that come their way. So the way I see it is that development must come first, and then the law and order and security situation will improve by itself. Whereas many argue that first let us sort out the law and order situation, let us sort out the internal security situation, only then that development will come. My view is the other way around. Let developmental activities, with the traction of the Act East policy. Otherwise, unless some big time activities take place in Manipur, the developmental activities are not going to happen, because Manipur's, the ecosystem in Manipur is such that there are not many opportunities for big industries. Therefore, to my mind, I think Act East policy should be the one which the state and the people, its people, must take advantage of and work towards it.
Most certainly. And in fact, when unemployment rises, a lot of the other issues, there is general discontent among youth as well. Yeah. And this has become a factor for relevance for many of these non-state actors as well in the past, and continues to do so. Thank you for those points, General Singh. Jaideep ji, before we wrap up, I would also like to discuss the external linkages. Right now, since there is a border with Myanmar, what is the security situation? And as far as the external linkages are concerned, with the ongoing crisis within Myanmar as well. So could you give us an update of the situation right there?
Sharanji, I think it's a very pertinent question, although it might not relate directly to the Manipur elections per se. But the fact of the matter is, you recall that in November 2021, last year, two groups of Manipur, primarily the PLA Manipur and the Manipur Naga People's Front, attacked and ambushed the 46 Assam Rifle in Churachandpur in Manipur and killed the commanding officer, Colonel Biplab Tripathi, and his family, consisting of his wife and 5-year-old child, and Jawans of the 46 Assam Rifles. That was a dastardly act carried out from across the border from Myanmar, which continues to be very unstable at this point of time. It's also very important to understand that some of these valley-based insurgent groups, including the ones which I've just named, PLA Manipur and MPNF, have come into some sort of an understanding with the Myanmarese army. So what we were expecting before the 1st February 2021 military takeover in Myanmar, by which we were expecting the Nepido government, headed by a democratic government, then to sort of act as they did by way of Operation Sunrise 1 and Operation Sunrise 2 against the insurgent groups, have actually taken a 180-degree turn. In other words, the insurgent groups are now actually coming to an agreement with the Myanmarese army in order to quell the unrest and the rebellion which has sort of, erupted after the military takeover. So we have a very precarious situation inside Myanmar, which naturally will tell on the security matrix of the bordering states, including Manipur and Nagaland. So I think New Delhi would do well to sort of reach out to Nepido in whatever form and manner it can. And I believe the Foreign Secretary of India's visit, Mr. Shringla's visit to Nepido, would sort of, anvil and spell these aspects out properly, iron them out well, because after all, I don't see that military, rule in Myanmar sort of, going away in a hurry. And we need to, in New Delhi, understand this point that pragmatism is the most important aspect as far as activist policy, which General Himalaya very rightly pointed out. And Myanmar happens to be the important, crucial linchpin for the activist policy. So if development has to take place, which General Singh is referred to, which is a very important factor of security as well, I think we must hasten our policy of activist policy. As a matter of fact, I still recall how Mr. B.G. Verghese, the late B.G. Verghese, when he was releasing my book, Frontier in Flames, said that, Jaideep, there's no point acting east unless you actually go east. So we can only go east unless we have a proper friend and an ally in Myanmar, which at this point of time does not seem to be sort of at hand. And so I think we have to understand that the external aspect, as you said, is very, very important for the development of the bordering states of Northeast, including Manipur. So we need to do business with Nepido in a very pragmatic, in a manner which is realpolitik, and we cannot wait for the return of democracy to Myanmar before we can sort of anvil these movements.
Thank you for that, Jaideep ji. BJP is the front runner right now and looks very favorable to win a simple majority, at least during the upcoming elections. Security is very important, but AFSPA as an electoral issue is not as big as it is made out to be. And this time, development should be a priority for all the parties, because that is one of the ways through which employment can be generated and stability can be brought about. And external linkages, of course, will only be improved over time, and all of these factors weigh in. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. This has been an experience even for me to learn about the nitty-gritties of how Manipur and Manipur people think. After the elections, I hope you can join me for an analysis of why and how exactly Manipur voted, to understand and see how much we got things right and also where we went wrong. And I hope all of you can join me again for a conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. धन्यवाद, नमस्कार.